Assalamu alaikum. Hi guys, this is Sarah. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about 5 culture shock slash strange or interesting things from my India trip this past winter. So some of these are kind of funny things, but other things are quite serious. The first thing that I wanted to talk about, which is not funny, is the general level of poverty. So in the United States, people, of course we have poor people, but we're a first world country. We're kind of, most people are generally living in a little bit better conditions than maybe people who are living in countries who are not first world countries. The It's just very different, the type of living conditions that people live in, the ways that the infrastructure is, the streets, different things like that. I mean, if any of you know about, even for example, India's sewage system and stuff like that, the government is now starting to campaign for getting more people to get toilets because it's becoming a public health hazard for all of the people just going outside in random places. So of course the United States doesn't have that kind of problem. People generally really everywhere have toilets. It's kind of really unheard of to not have a toilet. So just general levels of poverty like that, where that's something that's totally normal in India maybe to not have a toilet, whereas here that's something that's very unusual to not have a toilet here. It's very different. I think that I've heard people from India talking online before saying like, oh, it's not that bad, like there isn't that much poverty, but I think that you have to live in a country that's so much better off to, when you go to another country, to see how high the levels of poverty is. And I'm not saying that that's India's fault. There's many historical reasons for why it's like that, including colonization and imperialism, but it's very shocking to somebody who is from a first world country, and it's very humbling as well. So that was a bit shocking for me, coming from a first world country. So a little bit more lighthearted, but I mean, I suppose it could also deal with other systematic problems in India. Is all of the stray cows. I know I mentioned that kind of in my last video, how shocked I was, but first off, the stray dogs. There are way more stray dogs in India than there is here. I mean, you can't go you can't go a block without seeing like a few stray dogs in India, whereas here it's very unusual to see a stray dog, and you'll go, oh, what happened to that dog? Like, where's his owner if you see a stray dog here, because it's a lot more unusual. But just stray cows, though, that's not even a concept that really even exists in the United States. There's not really such a thing as a stray cow, where just nobody owns that cow. Like, maybe that cow got out somewhere or something happened, and it would be very unusual to see that, but maybe that would happen here. In India, there's just cows that nobody owns that just walk around all over the place. I took this picture when we were shopping in the city, where the streets are kind of lined with shops at either end, and there was just a cow just hanging out, just walking right through the shop, and nobody is bothering it, just a cute little cow walking through. I actually like seeing all the cows, and the cows actually aren't in that bad of a condition. They don't look super, super skinny, at least most of the cows. That could also have to do with the trash problems in India, where there isn't trash collection. I mean, it may be in the bigger cities, but definitely in rural areas there isn't trash collection. So it could be that those animals have more access to trash and stuff like that. Same with the dogs, where they can find things to eat. Of course, cows have more options to eat because they can eat the grass or whatever that's out there, but the dogs also aren't really that skinny, mostly. I feel probably because of the trash collection situation, that they have more access to food that they can dig through and find easily. But stray cows, that was pretty shocking for me. And India has so many different kinds of cows too. Like, In the United States, you don't really see like a big variation in the kind of cows people have. We generally have like a few different types of cows that are, of course, used for our meat or dairy industries. We have like Holsteins and maybe a couple other kinds, but if you find any other variety, it's probably going to be on specialty farms, but just not in general. But yeah, I really like all of the cows there and stuff, and the stray cow concept was really interesting to me, so that was kind of a culture shock moment for me. Another thing that I actually was prepared for before I went to India, but I find really interesting, so I kind of wanted to mention it to some of my viewers, is that staring isn't really considered to be rude in India. Once again, I'm kind of speaking for my husband's area. I don't know if in the bigger cities there's some other cultural things, or depending on where you live, it's a little bit different. But it's not really considered to be rude, like kind of when somebody's in public, it's kind of like, okay, that's just public property basically, where you can look wherever you want. So being a very light-skinned person, I'm even a very light-skinned person here in the United States, it drew a lot of attention. I mean, unfortunately that not just because I look generally different from everybody else, but unfortunately because of beauty standards that encourage light skin and colonization by the Britons, that it's considered to be very beautiful to be light-skinned. Which I don't subscribe to that notion. I don't think that just because you have light skin, that makes you more beautiful, but it did cause even more of the staring. I mean, of course, I'm wearing Western clothes most of the time, jeans and shirts and stuff like that, so it draws a lot of attention. But then also my skin color and the lighter tone of my hair that I have, brown hair as opposed to most people who have really dark black hair, that kind of thing, where you can see, you know, on my eyebrows or the front of my hijab, because I wear my hijab much looser in India than I do here, that you can tell that I'm much lighter than most other people, not just in skin tone, but hair tone and stuff like that. And it does cause a lot of staring, so I actually knew that staring is okay over there before I went. But it was still kind of a lot when you're at a wedding and there's, you know, hundreds of people at a wedding and 30 people at a time are looked over staring at you. It's kind of a lot, since in Western culture it's considered rude to stare. But I didn't mind it too much. The other thing that is kind of a funny thing is tomato snacks are super popular, at least the area that my husband lives in. Most of the chips and stuff like that are tomato flavored. I was like, what's up with that? Some of them actually had like little like ketchup packet type things that you could use in there to like squeeze on your chips. I was like, oh, like, I don't know about that. That sounds kind of nasty. Other things about interesting chips is that they had masala flavored Lay's, which I actually tried, and they were not bad. I actually liked those. And sour cream and onion Lay's over there, they're not just sour cream and onion Lay's, they're American style sour cream and onion Lay's. They're labeled like that, so I actually kind of found that kind of funny. I didn't try those sour cream and onion chips, so I don't know if they're different than the ones that we have here, but I did try some of the other funky flavored like masala chip type of snacks, and those were really interesting. My husband's foofy gave me these little like hard candies that tasted like chai, and those were really interesting. I was like, that's definitely not something that you're gonna find in the United States. So the last thing that I wanted to talk about, which was a huge thing of annoyance for me, a huge point of annoyance, was that I have big hands. I actually even have big hands for here. That in the United States, if I buy a pair of gloves, most of the time the fingers only come up to about here on me. I have very long fingers and very wide hands. It's not something that's very noticeable when you first look at me, but obviously it's something that's more noticeable if I have to have something that I put on my hands. Most people don't really notice unless I've mentioned something about it. But bangles. So this is the tiniest bangle that I can fit my hand through, the tiniest bangle. This one is kind of like a regular general one that my mother-in-law might wear. So I don't know if you guys can see this, but look, the blue bangle fits way inside of my bangle. um, I think that this is actually one of my mother-in-law's bigger bangles that she can fit into, but my mother-in-law has tiny hands. I'm so jealous because in India they do not make bangles in general big enough for me to wear. So it was funny because a lot of people give bangles as gifts for like at weddings, or, you know, not seeing us, of course, because we're family that lives very far away. They like to give gifts when we come. So bangles are a popular gift. Everybody was giving me bangles, but I couldn't fit in any of the bangles that they gave me. It's funny because I would try to squeeze it on my hand, right? So see this one, this one's actually one of my easier ones to fit into. But most of them, it takes me a while to get on my hands, and I'll have like marks. I don't know if you guys can see on my hands. I'll have like marks and bruises from the biggest ones that I have to put on, because generally like the biggest ones that they sell in shops are the ones that I can barely squeeze into on my hand. So we went to this bangle shop, right? And I was looking for some bangles to go with my dresses, because generally they don't really make the sleeves long enough on my Indian dresses there, and so I like to have some bangles to cover up my arms a little bit. And so it's really difficult for me to find them in my size. And I kept telling the guy, I do not fit in these tiny bangles that you're taking out. And I had somebody translating for me. And I even had a bangle that I fit in, and I was showing him, and I was like, I fit in this. I cannot fit in any smaller bangles. It's not that I don't know how to get on. I mean, everybody's tried the soaping up your hands and squeezing them as hard as they can down my hands. I can only fit in the biggest ones. And if it's a little bit smaller than that, they can maybe fit them on with soap and forcing them down my hand, but they're never going to come off. So it has to be glass bangles, otherwise I'm going to be wearing those forever. But the shopkeeper, just the only ones that he had in like the biggest size were like red wedding bangles, and I'm like, I have 1,000 red wedding bangles. That ain't what I want. So it was very frustrating shopping there. And then luckily Imran's older Fufi also has fairly large hands, and so she was able to go to a few shops that she shops for bangles and got me some bangles, which I could barely get on, and honestly I've broken so many trying to just get them on. But they just barely fit over my hands. So that's another thing. Tiny itty bitty bangles. India, you gotta make some for the big hand girls, okay? So that's kind of all that I wanted to share with you guys for right now. I'm going to be making some more videos about my trip, about things that I liked, didn't like, and I'd love to show you guys all of the beautiful dresses and jewelry and stuff that I got in India. So I hope that you'll enjoy that stuff, and more videos soon to come. Thank you, and Assalamu alaikum.